Hey folks, John Peterson here, and it's an amazing time to be a photographer. We have so many tools at our disposal. We have so much technology at our disposal. Our worlds are basically limitless when it comes to what we can do with our photographs. And today I wanted to show you a particular tool in Photoshop that I've been using for the last couple of months. It's not a new tool and it's not a revolutionary tool, but what it is a tool that may help you move faster through some of your edits if you're a Photoshop user. If you're a recent Lightroom user, you know the latest new addition to some of their masking tools, this landscape mask. And what it will do is use AI to detect different areas of the photograph. And then it will automatically generate masks that you select, such as water and vegetation. So this is a great thing that's been recently added to us in Lightroom. Now, some of that same technology existed in Photoshop before it was released in Lightroom. This feature in Photoshop has been present in the tool since 2024. And it's a tool that I knew about, but I just started using recently in the last couple of months. Now, the beauty for us as photographers is that there are dozens of different ways for us to achieve a particular result. We can do it whichever way works best for our thinking and our workflow. And this is just one of those tools that you can add potentially into your workflow to help speed up your edits. And what I'm talking about is the adjustment brush. I'm not sure if you have seen this in Photoshop over on the toolbar, but the adjustment brush allows you to make specific edits using a brush or selecting an object. And you can pick from a variety of different types of edits that you can apply to this brush. Now, as I said, this is not a new technology. It's very easy to add a layer into Photoshop, mask out the layer, and then start to paint back in some of these effects. But this is a great way for you to quickly make these kinds of edits without having to create an edit, a mask, invert the mask, and then do your work. It allows you to jump right into making these targeted edits on a photograph. So let's jump into Photoshop and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here we are in Photoshop, and I am using the latest version of Photoshop. If you don't know what version you're on, I would recommend going to your Creative Cloud and just running any updates that you might see, and hopefully this tool will become visible. And it is visible by default. And what you see right here is a paintbrush with a black and white circle next to it, and this is the adjustment brush. If you don't see it, you can come down to this last tool and you can go to Edit Toolbar if you want, and you can add additional tools over to your toolbar. But in my case, you can see that I have the adjustment brush tool already present in my toolbar. And this is a fantastic little tool, and it really only works on a pixel layer, so a layer that is the image. It won't work very well on a masked layer. So I always go back to my background layer, or I flatten the image or create a new version right up above the adjustments that I've made to always work on a pixel-based layer. But really how this works, if I select this, notice that I have an adjustment up here, and I can pick the type of adjustment that I want to make with my brush. So let's just say brightness and contrast. I can do an addition or a subtraction using the brush. I have all of my brush tools here available, which is great. This is for applying it to an object. And then just like a normal brush, I have my object or my opacity and my flow. And it just depends on how you like to work with your brush. I tend to work with a lower opacity and build up my edits. But in this case, let's say I wanted to adjust the overall tonality of the three bears. And I want to make them brighter. compared to the background scene. So as I'm looking at this image, one of the first things that I see is this bear behind me, or behind the first two, isn't as bright as the front two. So maybe I want to brighten this bear up first before I brighten up these other two. So with my adjustment brush selected, it's set to brightness contrast. What I can do is just start painting over this bear, and the system automatically creates a new layer that's a brightness contrast layer, you can see over here, and it has set some default settings for my brightness and my contrast. Me personally, I don't like the default settings. I'll double click on these and set it back to 0, and then I will start to play with where I want this brightness compared to, and what I'm looking at is the brightness of the back bear compared to the front bear. I want it just a little bit darker than the forward two, but not super duper bright. I don't want it equal to, because it's behind the other two bear and somewhat in shadow. So you can see that I created a pixel, or a new layer, brightness contrast layer with a mask on it. And I can make my adjustments. I can always go back and edit this adjustment just like you can with any layers in Photoshop. Boom. Now, if I want to select all of the bears and increase the overall brightness for that particular set of bears, what I can do is go to brightness contrast. Let me make sure I'm on a pixel-based layer down here. Make sure brightness contrast. And I can either click here or notice in my contextual taskbar. This floating contextual taskbar appeared when I clicked on my pixel-based layer down here. If I'm on my mask layer, it doesn't sometimes show up. But down here, I can pick what type of adjustment I want to make. And again, I want to make a brightness contrast layer, and I want to apply it to an object. I'm going to pick this here. And I'm going to draw a marquee around these bears and see how well the AI engine selects the bears. If I want to see the overlay that it selected, I have a checkbox up here to select overlay. It did a pretty good job of selecting the bears. But again, it came in with really strong default settings, which I don't like. I'm going to take these back to normal. And I just want to increase this a little bit to make them stand out from the background. You can see as I toggle that layer on and off, it's just adding a little bit of brightness. Now, if I want to invert this and darken the surrounding area around the subjects, I can simply take this layer, drag it down here, duplicate it, and invert the mask. Then I can come to my brightness contrast and just lower the background compared to the bears. So real quickly, you can see that I've gone from that to that. It's looking good. One of the last adjustments I want to make for an image like this is the color of this water. We love blue and gold together, and so having some blue in this water against the sort of goldish warm colors of the bear would be fantastic. So let me go to my pixel-based layer, and in this case, I might want to try color balance, where I can add some additional color into this photograph. And here's going to be a cool trick for you, and it's going to be kind of feel a little bit similar to Lightroom. If I click Apply to Object, it's no different than using this over here. As I hover over regions in this photograph, you can see how this pink overlay appears. So there's the background or the vegetation. Here's the water. So it's using that same AI engine to select different similar elements in the photograph to allow me to make a targeted adjustment. If I hover over the rocks, it doesn't know what to do with the rocks. But I could also edit each individual bear by hovering over it. But in this case, what I want to do is highlight the water. And I want to add, again, it came in with some default settings that I don't care for. I want to add a little bit of blue into this water. You see that? We go from that to that. Looks pretty good. So this adjustment brush, either by painting around the image or by selecting objects or regions within the image, it's a real fast way to make targeted adjustments to things, regionalities in the photograph, tonalities in the photograph. It's a real easy way to do it. Let's take a look at one more example. This one from the Oregon coast, and you can see this beautiful shot. This is at Cape Kiwanda. There's a big sandstone cliff on the right, a haystack out there, great reflection in the foreground, really nice sky. And this is an unedited photograph. And the thing that really bothers me is the darkness of the slope over here on the right-hand side. So let's see if we can use our adjustment brush to fix that. Now, I go ahead and select adjustment brush, make sure brightness contrast is selected, and I want to select to objects and see what the computer might be able to figure out. So as I hover over the sky, it does a really good job of selecting the sky. When I hover over the cliff, it selects the cliff, the haystack, and part of this foreground rock. Now, that's not my best ideal situation. So I want to try something else to see what might work. But just for giggles, let's go ahead and select the water. Ooh, and it hovers over the water and the beach. And these are two zones that I would edit differently. But here with this AI, it selected all of them together. So let's go ahead and uncheck the select to object and use our brush. Now, and again, because I like to use lower flows, I'm going to put my opacity at, let's say, 60%. Want a little bit wider brush to cover some territory. I want to hide that just a little bit. And I want to start painting up here on this cliffside and see what happens. Let's adjust that down. And we can start to see and paint in just a little bit more. So again, the system made a new layer that's brightness contrast. It put a black mask across the entire image, and only where I'm painting, you can see the white right there. And this is where I've painted. And now you can see how my feathering of this brush made it such that it bled up into the sky. So let's go ahead and fix that a little bit. I want a really hard brush because I don't want a lot of feathering, and I want to keep the size down as much as I can. Now what I can do is select minus, and I can start painting out where my feathering bled over. Increase my brush size just a little bit, and so it's real easy to take away things that you might have painted on. So those plus or minus keys can be your friend. Yeah, let's just do that. And there you go. Real simple, real easy. I'm actually going to bump my opacity up to 100 and make sure I don't have anything left over. Just a little bit bled up into here. And so you can see there's my finished mask. Now I could go back to add if I wanted to trim that up and make it a little bit better. It's right here on the corners. I take my opacity back down a little bit. See if I can feather some of that into the base. And there, we went from that to that with a real easy brush stroke. Well, there you go. There's a look at the adjustment brush in Adobe Photoshop. And again, this is not a revolutionary tool. It's an evolution of some thinking within Adobe in ways to speed up your workflow. And when you use the object selection, it's running kind of the same AI as that new masking feature in Lightroom. So it's just another tool that we can have in our quiver to process our photographs more efficiently, more effectively, and with better quality edits, in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you like this video, check out some of my other stuff. Don't forget to subscribe down below. And with that, I'll wish you a great day and keep shooting. Bye-bye.